The man is obviously a lunatic. It's apparent that his actions can only be described as the ravings of a madman.
Alright, racism. Am I a racist? Well, I don't know, probably according to the left, I would probably be labelled a racist. I'd be labelled a lot of things by the left, and that would be one of them. Why? I think culture is important. I think people's cultures should be preserved, and I'll get into the race stuff in a minute. I'm not against like race mixing and all that stuff. I don't really care what you do or who your girlfriend is or whatever. I'm concerned about people losing their cultures, and we're in a culture war at the moment. And let's just talk about white Australians at the moment, okay? White Australians, we are in a culture war with white Australians. So the culture's been divided. It used to be a God-centered, you could call it a Christian nation because the West was built on Christian principles, like it or not. That's what we were built on. And you can argue about the people leading were still into occult stuff and still into, they might have been Freemasons or whatever, and not actual legitimate biblical Christians. But the loose characteristics of Christianity have filtered down through the West for generations, and it's been great. It's built an awesome civilization that's lasted a very long time. But now we're divided, and there's a big culture war, and the godless atheists are the majority now. We Christians are the minority, and the cultures don't mix. So the two predominant white cultures in Australia are not mixing well. There's a problem with every culture. When you put two cultures together, they clash, and you get problems from it. Okay, and that's like just historically every time you put two cultures together. I think the whole point of all this, the Taliban stuff going on overseas, I think that's just another excuse to just flood immigrants into white Western nations. It fits in with the puzzles, all the puzzle pieces. It fits in together perfectly. I think that's what they're doing on purpose to help destroy the West by creating melting pots. And I've been to places that are Muslim communities in Australia, and they're scary. It's very scary to walk down the street as a white person there because they hate you. And it's not just they glare at you. I literally got cornered in a kebab shop, and they were swearing at me in whatever their language was, like yelling at me for being there, for being an Australian white guy in their kebab shop. And I nearly got in a big punch-up with them, and I would have lost because there was lots of them. And that was just me walking in, ordering a kebab, guys. I wasn't going in, like, staring people down and being a jerk. I was already on edge because surrounded by people that are from a different culture and don't understand... I don't understand their culture, they don't really understand my culture very well, and it clashes, and you get problems. And that's just what has been happening to the West through immigration policies that I won't get into them today, but that is a problem. That's a legitimate problem. So cultures do clash. Culture is important. Preserving culture is important. And you could say I'm a uni-nationalist. I think that's similar to what I believe. So I think every nation that has its own culture should preserve their culture. I don't want to see it all blended into one big, Starship Enterprise culture. I want to be able to go to Japan and have like beautiful noodles on a snowy mountaintop with like paper doors and wearing slippers and stuff. I want to be able to go to New Zealand and hunt with the Maoris and watch them carry a big pig on their back. I want to be able to. I'm not going to be able to, obviously, because I'm not going to get the jab. So I suppose I'm stuck here now. But I want people to preserve their cultures. I think all culture is important to pass down to the next generation. I believe Aboriginals, it'd be great if they could have their own state here and then just preserve their culture in that state. And there's things I don't like about Aboriginal culture. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about my culture, okay? And we do have culture. Australians have culture. It's not a long historic culture because we haven't been here that long. I'm talking about the white European Australians, not Aboriginals. They've got very, very deep, rich, ancient culture. We don't have that, but we do have a culture. And that culture is important to me. I want to teach that culture and the values and principles of that culture to my kids. However, that culture is being destroyed by immigration, by atheism. Godless atheism is destroying it from within. Immigration is destroying it from outside. There's a lot of problems, and I think, honestly, guys, I think we're at the end of our civilization as a Christian, as the Christian West. I think that's going to be torn from under us pretty soon, unfortunately, and makes me sad for my kids. But yeah, I want to teach my kids how to have a laid back attitude like an Australian. I want to teach them about the bush, teach them about, you know, fishing and hiking and four-wheel driving and barbecues on the beach and that kind of thing. I want to instill that into my kids, that culture. So don't go thinking that you don't have a culture just because you're where you are doesn't have a big history. And you can dig into your roots and stuff. Like I've got Irish and English and Scottish and German. I've got all those different things that I can look into as well, and I can identify with that because, like, especially unfortunately the Scottish Irish side has alcohol as a big part of their culture, and so does Australia. So, you know, there's problems with Australian culture. There's problems with every culture. There's things I don't like about every culture, and some cultures are brutal, especially godless cultures. Before Christianity went worldwide, cultures were mainly about like human sacrifice and like sex cult magic, and like they worshipped, you know, big dicks. They worship big dicks. You know, those big obelisk things that you see everywhere. Here, the Masons still love them. The Masons love dicks. They love dicks and vaginas. That's what the compass and the square is. It's a dick and a vagina. It's a sex cult. Most of the ancient religions were sex cults, and you know, sex with prostitutes at the temple was just a thing. Sacrificing babies to make the grass grow and stuff. I've talked about this before, but basically, as subverted as Christianity was when it was Romanized and went worldwide, it still had a absolutely massive positive effect on humanity as a whole. Without Christ, humanity is just a mess. It's disgusting. And I'm watching my own culture being stripped from me at the moment in Australia. I am watching atheism just take over, and we're moving. They call it progressive. We're moving back to those ancient cults. We're regressing, and it's very sad. So I'm watching my culture disappear. That makes me sad. I would prefer to preserve it. And I suppose if you watch a lot of TV, that might make me racist. I don't know. Probably. I just assume because I don't watch TV and I've got no idea what you guys are talking about half the time. So now let's move on to your birth DNA, your race, your skin color, your nationality, your heritage. I don't think that's as important as culture. I don't think that makes much of a difference compared to culture. If a black person from, like, an African person grows up here, and I know this for a fact because I know a lot of people from different cultures and backgrounds that have actually been born here, grown up in the Australian environment, and I get along with those people like I get along with any Australian. Of course you're going to get along better with people from your culture. That's of course. Do you want to move to Japan tomorrow and see if you make a best friend in a week? It's not going to happen. It's going to take years, and you're going to have to assimilate into their culture before you can even make a friend, because that's just the difference. So we're all made in the image of God, right? Genesis, we were made in the image of God. That doesn't mean that we're God. That doesn't mean that we're gods. It doesn't mean that we're godly. We're all godly people. None of us are good, not one. We all fall short of the glory of God, but we are made in the image of God. So humanity as a whole, we were all made in the image of God, right? Everybody. All the 13 satanic bloodlines, they were still made in the image of God. Whether or not their DNA has been corrupted, that's an interesting rabbit hole. I don't know. They could have Nephilim blood in them. I don't know. Let's stick to the point. So there's races since Babylon. So there was Adam, Eve, bunch of kids, bunch of descendants, bunch of bloodlines, but they all stem from Adam and Eve. Actually, then there was Noah. Right, Noah. So we're technically all descendants of Noah as well, and his kids. And then you got the Tower of Babylon. Everyone's totally satanic, totally evil, totally subverted, to the point where humanity was so evil, God's like, I got to wipe these guys out, or it's just they're not going to get anywhere. And they were literally building a tower to get to the top of the firmament to, I don't know, wage war with God or whatever. They wanted to be like God. They wanted to be their own gods. I don't know. But they were building a physical tower up that way, and instead of God going, that's stupid, you guys are just going to hit space and not be able to breathe, he went, oh crap, they might actually get this done. Well, he knew that they were going to get this done. He knew that they were going to be successful. And you can read that again if you like. And you're not arguing with me, you're arguing with what the Bible says. God looked at it and said, crap, they're going to achieve that height that's going to get them up here. And he wiped them out. He destroyed the whole project. So what he did, he confused their languages and scattered them. And I assume that's where different races come from. When he scattered the people, scattered the language, he didn't say he made some dumb and some smart. He didn't say he made some better than others or whatever. He just said he scattered them. He basically confused them so that they wouldn't be so organised and one unit to work against God, which is why a lot of us are worried about the one world order, the new world order thing, because once humanity is one again, once there's no more nations and we're a big Starship Enterprise, then what's the next goal? All right, let's go and wage war against God, because that's just what we do. That's over and over again. That's the human nature in us. Unfortunately, I don't agree with that. I'm just saying that's what happens historically. So that's another reason why I love cultures. I think we should stick to our nations and stick to our heritage and stick to our cultures and our beliefs and keep separate, so that my kids get more time to grow up before the world unites and all the bad stuff really, really takes off, which is, we're galloping towards that at lightning speed. But it'd be nice to slow it down a little bit. So anyway, there's different races. Now, God's scattered everybody. They can't talk to each other. They can't communicate. And they build their own cultures. There is obviously differences there. Okay, and there's white people, there's black people, there's all these different skin colours and different eye shapes and different heritages and different beliefs. And I think the more important thing is the culture, obviously. And I'll get to why later. But there is differences, okay? And they're not huge, and they're not that important. Here, typically, if you get a white kid, like a white European kid and a Aboriginal kid, and bring them up in the same environment and get them to play footy, the Aboriginal kid's going to be better than the white kid, because they're just a bit slightly more athletic, so they're slightly more likely to be running quick and grabbing a ball and diving and jumping around quicker. And like an Asian person, and I think this is probably more culture than anything else, an Asian person is going to be better than me at maths, okay? I might be, historically, my cultures have been like kingdom builders, like they like to build like big grand architecture, like castles and stuff. And I think I got a bit of that in me. I like building stuff. It's what I enjoy doing. And there's stuff, there's little differences. So I'm not saying everybody's exactly the same. I'm not saying everybody's born exactly the same. There is slight differences. Might be slight differences in intellect. I don't know. I don't really care, because it doesn't really make a difference. I know smart black dudes. I know smart white dudes. I know smart Jewish people. I know smart Asians. I also know a lot of dumb black people, dumb white people, dumb Asians, dumb Jews. Like there's retards of every colour. Okay, humanity's all retarded. Unfortunately, because of our fallen nature. That's just the truth, guys. I'm talking to Christians here, brothers in Christ. We are so outnumbered right now, guys. In the West, we are a massive, huge minority. Massive minority. We are like, I think it's like 90 to 10% probably of people that are, trying to be biblical Christians versus godless atheists that think we're hateful bigots and probably honestly want us gone. That's where we're at, and we can't afford to be going, we need to segregate our little 10% group into the different races and stuff. That's not biblical, and I'll get to that in a minute. But we're totally outnumbered, and we really need to be working hard in this culture war to just hang on for dear life for the sake of our children, because the place that they're going to grow up, the more godless it gets, the worse the world's going to get, the harder it's going to get, the more subverted they're going to get. And look at where we're at now. The world's, it's horrible. I love this place, but I love what it was. What it is and where it's going makes me sick. My culture in general, and I will own this, the abortion, the selfishness, the arrogance, just total apathy to other people's problems, The pride, it's terrible. My culture is being destroyed, and it's very sad. And your typical Australian now, probably not someone I would really, gravitate towards to. Typical Australian 30 years ago, yeah, cool. And it just got worse and worse slowly, and I'm not a fan of I want to move to the country and get away from people, to be honest. People are getting more toxic. People are becoming psychopaths, mostly due to TV, brainwashing and the like. And it's nothing to do with their race. This is happening worldwide. This is happening everywhere, in all cultures. People are being steered towards Satanism or Luciferianism. There's two paths that you can go. There's like the dark evil, and then there's like the new age love and peace. But they're both all roads lead to Rome at the moment, except for that one narrow path that we need to walk. But what's the Bible say? So let's look at this in a biblical context, because there's people that say white people are smarter, Jewish people are all evil, black people are all dumb, and then they use a bunch of instant, like, look at this. But then I can show you a smart black person that I know, or a nice black person, and then I can show you a mean, horrible white guy that's an absolute dick. So you can't just blanket everything. It just doesn't work logically, and it's easy to see through. And again, when we say things that are obviously wrong, it makes us look dumb, and people take us less seriously. So we need to be very careful about the views that we hold and what we say. Now, even if you hold those views and they're absolutely cemented in your brain, you are like, I am white, I am better than this race and this race, and I hate this race and this race because of this, and this, right? And you can't get around that. Once you submit to Christ, and this will be a journey, it won't be instant, and I'm not looking down on you or saying that there's anything wrong with you. You're on a journey, and I can tell you, in Christ, on your journey, eventually you're going to have to get to a point where you let that go. Because the Bible says that after Christ, there is neither Jew nor Gentile. And even if you believe that you are physically better than someone else, for instance, as a Christian man versus me 15 years ago, if I walked up to someone with a thumb sticking out of the forehead, right, a little wiggly thumb, and their whole family had wiggly thumbs sticking out of their foreheads, and they look stupid and constantly doing this, and it looks really dumb, I'm not going to walk up to that person and say, hey mate, you got a thumb sticking out of your head, and your whole family's got thumbs sticking out of your head. I don't have a thumb sticking out of my head. Look at me. Look at how good my forehead is. Look at that. You see a thumb? Nah. I don't look like this, do I? We're supposed to speak the truth in love. Yes. Absolutely. But the whole point of that is to give people the gospel. It's not to create division. It's not to hurt people's feelings. If you honestly think you're better than someone else because of your race, it's annoying because you're doing what you hate other people for doing. That whole thing just ends up a polar melting pot where both sides are fed, and it's hard to see when you're in it. So I grew up going to a high school where it was half Italian and Greeks versus half like white Australians, and we always fight. It was super racist school. And it'd be, the Skips versus the Wogs, and that would be a brawl, basically. And then, I won't go into that, but you get what I mean. I was inside of that, so I couldn't see that something was wrong. But now looking back on it, I see like that was so dumb. But I couldn't see it at the time because I was inside it. So I get a lot of the anger coming from America right now. Look, let's be honest, the Black Lives Matter thing totally created a bunch of racism that was not there. And it fed the racism that was there massively. It was just a commie trick, and a bunch of black people fell for it. Those black people were not smart to fall for that, okay? But it's not like we don't get tricked as well, okay? We got tricked into a bunch of wars that weren't ours. We got tricked into being in debt constantly and being debt slaves. We get tricked as well. So yes, a bunch of black people got tricked into feeding a racist movement that created more and more racism and just polarized people totally. and it got worse and worse and worse. And from where I'm sitting, it's a lot easier to see because I've got a bird's eye view of this thing. They're trying to create a race war. The powers that be are feeding that thing that's already there a little bit. They're feeding it, blowing it out of proportion, making it as big as possible, agitating as much as possible, sending people into those groups specifically to amp them up and get them angry at each other so that those two groups destroy each other. It's a race war, and they're creating it on purpose. So I can see that and be like, guys, don't buy into it. But when you're in that, like when I was in high school, I just hated the wogs and just wanted to fight the wogs. And now I look back, I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, why did I think that? But it's because it's where I was. I was inside of it. You go to jail and you're instantly divided into race. Unless you're a Christian, you walk into jail and then that's the whole thing. Christianity, the Christian culture is totally removed from race, totally outside of race. Once you accept Christ and your mission no longer becomes your own mission, you're not working for yourself anymore, you're not working for your own pride anymore, you're not trying to be better than anyone anymore. It actually works in reverse, and if you see someone that needs a hand, someone that's in a worse position than you socially, economically, you're going to try and lift that person up rather than be like, ha, you're poor, you suck. And be like, hey man, you need some money? Like, you know what I mean? It totally turns it around. So your race, the race stuff in your head will get less and less important over time. The more that you try to be Christ-like, you're going to love people. Not only your enemies, but everybody around you, no matter who they are. Now, I don't want a bunch of different cultures here, okay? And I don't like what happened to the Aboriginal culture when England came. I'm not a fan of that. I kind of dig some of their culture. Like, I like living off the land and hunting and fishing and family being more important than money and stuff like that. I really dig that. But there's a lot of stuff in that culture that I don't like and I don't want to be a part of. It's exactly the same as my culture here. The stuff that I like about it and the stuff that I really don't like about it. And the way that it's going, I'd honestly rather be living in an Aboriginal community right about now. How retarded people are being in the predominantly white Australian suburbs. Everyone's just turning into psychopaths. Someone was trying to get my wife to put my toddler in a mask at the shops the other week. Like, all races are dumb. There. Okay? Maybe I'm racist. I don't like all the races. Okay? I don't like humans. But we're instructed, and I do feel this, and I know it's hard, but the more that you focus on the Bible and Christ and your own sinfulness and your own fallen nature, the more understanding you're going to be towards your fellow man, the more forgiving you're going to be towards your fellow man, the more you're going to make room for their faults, and honestly, the more you're going to care, the more you're going to let go of how much you care about their race. And their culture's always going to be different, but inside of that Christian culture, that's a bubble in itself, no matter what race, the Christian culture is its own world. And inside of that, there is neither Jew nor Gentile. So, that's my thoughts, my little rant on racism. Please try to be loving towards each other, because I see, we're on Telegram, guys. It's Telegram, and there's a lot of hatred on here. There's a lot of anger on here. There's a lot of sadness on here, and white people have been obviously, there's a lot of bad stuff happening to white civilization right now, via immigration, via subversion. Just where we're going downhill fast, and we're being demonized. We're demonized massively by the media. Where, especially like a white Christian male, you're a trifecta, mate. You got all three, and you're probably a racist, extremist, terrorist, blah 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 blah, because you're a white Christian male. You chauvinist pig. If you try to be the head of your household, you're this horrible chauvinist. Like it's annoying. And it's obviously racist, which is the ironic part. But we can rise above it, guys. We don't have to feed into that. We don't have to be the victims. We don't have to get angry about it. We can see it. We can be like, you know what, you guys, on the TV, you can call me whatever you want. I love my wife and my kids and my community around me, and they know me. and I don't need the approval of a bunch of pedophile assholes running the government. And I don't care what they say or think, to be honest, anymore. They're getting more and more ridiculous by the day, and we'll get into the light dark world order stuff another time, but I think I can sort of see where that's headed too. So, yeah, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, guys. I love you. Sorry if I hurt your feelings. Not trying to do that. Not trying to start an argument. I don't have time to argue these days. I'm so busy. But it does make me sad when Christians especially hurt each other's feelings. We're not called to do that. We're called to love and support each other, no matter what. And yes, speak the truth in love, but don't run around telling people they got a thumb on their head. God bless. Peace.